Welcome to Pop Culture Paradox, theories no one asked for. On this episode, we'll explore the question, when did Star Trek become so woke? Now, to totally answer the question, when does Star Trek become so woke, we must first begin with understanding the man who created Star Trek, Mr. Gene Roddenberry.
Eugene Wesley Gene Roddenberry was born on August 19, 1921 in El Paso.
His father was born about 30 years after the end of the Civil War down in Georgia, and had a lifelong detestation of Republicans. It was a vile epithet never to be used in his home. He had just an absolute hatred of those people. And while Gene didn't carry over the hatred, he carried over the kind of general distrust of Republicans and big business. And much of Gene's life was an artistic expression against overt authority and big business.
David Alexander, a distinguished author and editor, played a significant role chronicling Roddenberry's life and philosophy. As the editor of the Humanist magazine, Alexander conducted an extensive interview with Roddenberry in the March-April 1991 issues, delving deep into the humanistic themes embedded within Star Trek. This 26-page interview provided invaluable insights into Roddenberry's vision of the future, where humanity transcends its flaws to achieve a more enlightened existence.
Well, I first met Gene back in 1976 at a Star Trek convention, the only one I'd ever gone to, over at the Los Angeles Airport Marriott Hotel. I was kind of curious. I wasn't a Trekkie, and now known as Trekkers. I just walked in, looked around, and there was the big guy. I recognized him, walked over and said, can I buy you a drink? Introduced myself. He says, sure. We had a talk. We talked for 20 minutes or so. No one bothered us. He was quite approachable, affable, friendly. Star Trek was just beginning its climb into international status at that time. Got along well with him, thanked him for an interesting conversation, and left. I ran into him again in early 1990 down in Florida at a Humanist conference that I was at, where I was being named editor of a magazine, and he walked right in front of me at the conference, and I, Gene, hey! Reintroduced myself to him, told him where we had met, and he very kindly said, I think I remember that. I did not believe that he could at that point. I just thought he was being nice, but later on in my research, I came to the conclusion that he probably did remember. He had one of those strange trick memories that could remember everything that he saw or heard or read. I asked him for an interview for the magazine, and he said, well, who'll do it? And I said, me. And he said, fine. And we just went forward from there. We became friends over the course of the 6 months that I took to do the interview. We have similar philosophical backgrounds. He trusted me, and trusted me to tell his story accurately and without sensation, and I believe I have.
He was a visionary television screenwriter, producer, and futurist, best known for creating the iconic Star Trek franchise. His work not only revolutionized science fiction, but also mirrored his profound humanistic beliefs, advocating for a future where humanity thrives on principles of equality, exploration, and understanding. Roddenberry's early years were marked by a keen interest in aviation and storytelling. He pursued studies in police science at Los Angeles City College before enlisting in the United States Army Air Corps during World War II. As a pilot, he flew numerous combat missions, earning the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal. After the war, Roddenberry joined the Los Angeles Police Department, where he served as a sergeant while nurturing his passion for writing by penning scripts for television series.
He had been married, he had a child, and this is about 1948, 1949, 48 actually. And he saw a television set at a neighbor's back in New York when he was living in New York flying for Pan American. And he thought that that was going to be the wave of the future. A little movie screen, entertainment in everyone's home. He thought that that would be the wave of the future, and ultimately quit Pan Am and moved to California, where he thought, since the movie production was situated out here, that's where television production would be. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Mostly television production at that time was in New York. And so he stayed out here and got a job as, ironically enough, a policeman.
But I'm trying to get to that gap from being a policeman into going into the TV industry. I mean, this was not at the time when you could just go to, say, USC and just have a nice full-blown film program like you have today.
What you have in the early days of television in the 1950s is a situation that is perfectly analogous to the pulp magazine days of the 20s and 30s. A lot of terrific writers learned to write for the pulps. Ray Bradbury, Asimov, Earl Stanley Gardner, perhaps the greatest example that most of your audience would recognize today. They would write and write and write thousands and thousands of words. Their editors would tell them what they would want, and essentially through feedback, they would learn what the editors would want and what the public would accept. Well, in early television just had hundreds of half-hour anthology programs doing what were essentially short stories on television. And this became a very definite form that you had to write within a certain format. You had to write for 2 characters or 4 characters or whatever it was. You had to write fairly quickly if you were going to make a living at it. And then you had to write reasonably well. Gene learned how to do that. He learned how to write quickly, he learned how to write well, and developed his skills. He was working for the Public Information Division of the Los Angeles Police Department when Fred Ziv, Z-I-V, the early television pioneer, radio pioneer, and then he became a television pioneer, called and asked for a technical advisor for his program, Mr. District Attorney. Captain Stanley Sheldon, who was Gene's boss, sent Gene over. I found Fred Ziv. He's 89 years old now, I think it is, and great raconteur. Told me this terrific story about this large policeman. Gene was almost 6'3", at the Ziv studios for several days, uniform, badge, gun, whistle, everything, reading over scripts, and then saying to their story editor, John Epstein, well, I can write stuff as good as this. And at that point he was invited. Well, if you're so good, why don't you show us something? He did. They liked it, they bought it. In fact, I reproduced the original story outline, the original pitch letter that Gene sent them. It sold, and he got $700 for something that took about a week or so to write. And at that time, Gene was making just over $400 as a policeman for a month's pay. So this was exciting. This was a lot of money. And so he kept working and kept working to the point where he became quite good at it and ultimately had to quit the LAPD.
In the mid-1960s, Roddenberry conceived Star Trek, envisioning it as a platform to explore complex social issues through the lens of science fiction. This series, which premiered in 1966, was groundbreaking in its portrayal of a diverse crew working together aboard the starship USS Enterprise. This inclusivity was a direct reflection of Roddenberry's humanistic ideals, emphasizing the potential for unity and cooperation among different cultures and species.
What Gene showed in Star Trek was what we would be like, as he envisioned us, when we grew up. When we put aside the pettiness of nationalisms and racisms and all of that sort of thing, and looked at people, to coin a phrase, for the content of their character and not the color of their skin. He was mostly interested in doing stories about people. What is adult drama? Adult drama explores one central question, and that is, what is it to be a human being? Or what is it to be human? And that's principally what Gene's stories examined.
Following Roddenberry's passing in 1991, Alexander published Star Trek Creator, the authorized biography of Gene Roddenberry, published in 1994. This comprehensive biography offers an intimate look at Roddenberry's personal and professional journey, shedding light on the experiences and beliefs that shaped his work. Alexander's close relationship with Roddenberry allowed him to present a nuanced portrayal, capturing the essence of a man whose creations continue to inspire generations. Roddenberry's commitment to humanism was evident not only in his storytelling, but also in his personal convictions. He envisioned a future where humanity had overcome war, prejudice, and poverty, a vision that resonated with the principles of humanism, which emphasized reasons, ethics, and judgments.
His legacy is not the shows. I have come to conclude his legacy is the message, and his principal legacy is the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who were strongly affected by Star Trek and his humanistic message that things will be all right in the future, we will grow up, we will learn to solve our problems, and we will learn to live with one another.
So you would say Gene Roddenberry was optimistic about our future. He wasn't necessarily a doomsayer.
Oh, no, not at all. He was a great believer in us as a successful species. He didn't say that we were going to make it tomorrow or the next day because, well, tomorrow could be 500 years long. He was absolutely convinced and had great faith in us as a species, and I think that's what people pick up on.
Star Trek stands as a testament to Roddenberry's belief in the potential for human progress. This series tackled issues such as civil rights, gender equality, and ethical dilemmas, encouraging viewers to reflect on contemporary societal changes. By presenting a universe where diverse beings coexist peacefully, Roddenberry offered a hopeful blueprint for humanity's future. Gene Roddenberry's life and work continue to influence and inspire. Through his collaboration with David Alexander, particularly the in-depth interview in The Humanist and the authorized biography, a comprehensive understanding of Roddenberry's vision and humanistic philosophy is accessible to all.
Very interesting to note that in the A&E special biography about Gene Roddenberry, as well as in your book, Gene Roddenberry's ashes were sent up in the space shuttle.
Yes. That started, our quest to have that done was started the next day after Gene passed away. I was with him when he died, and I was at the house the next day. His personal assistant and I, Ernie Over, were sitting in the office. The idea struck both of us at the same time. I said, I'll go drop this on Majel. Walked across the foyer into the family room, sat down where she was waiting for a phone call from Forest Lawn to tell us that they were ready to cremate the body. Before I could say anything, she just looked at me and said, gee, I just wish we could shoot his ashes into space. And I said, I'll start working on it.
His legacy endures, reminding us of the power of storytelling to shape societal values and aspirations.
Oh, and while I didn't explicitly answer the question, when did Star Trek become so woke? That's because the answer is, it never went to sleep. Thank you for watching Pop Culture Paradox. And if you liked what you see, please subscribe to this channel and like this video and come back for more.